What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for tuning in to Inside the Panthers on YouTube. My name is Stephen Thompson. I'm here with another Inside Pitt practice report coming to you from the south side of Pittsburgh after Pitt's second practice of the regular season. Today, we heard from a few Pitt veterans, tight ends coach Tim Salem, defensive lineman DeAndre Jules, wide receiver Bub Means, and cornerback AJ Woods. And as they start to transition into full regular season game week and wrap up the preseason, you can start to sense a little bit of anxiety, some restlessness, some butterflies in the stomach, maybe, because there's not a whole lot left to say. All their position battles have been played out and finished, and most of them put a bow on. And all that's left is really to see what this team has when they actually hit the field in live competition against another team, even if it is an FCS opponent like Wofford. So we'll start there with our latest practice report. And walking out of the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex today, there was one thing that myself and my friends on the Pit Beat were talking about and that we had on our minds, and that was what this game against Wofford is going to look like. Pitt in their history is 20-1 all time against FCS programs like Wofford is, so a win is a safe bet. But not all of these 20 wins have been created equally. You can think about last year against Rhode Island or 2020 against Austin P. That was when they really leaned on the run game and got out in a quick game that was a blowout, but they got out healthy as well. They were just bigger, faster, stronger, and they really leaned on the bigger and stronger parts of it to run over teams that they knew they were better than. Then there's a game like 2021 against New Hampshire when they were throwing it deep, still up 70 points. They just kept pouring it on. And it really seemed like we're trying to make a statement that this passing offense was legit, that this team was legit, and that they were here to stay. And they kind of took out some frustrations on the New Hampshire Wildcats. Then there are the games like 2018 against Albany or 2016 against Villanova. Those were decisive. I think each of those were 3 touchdown wins, but none I would say were very convincing. They tried to bully those teams. They tried to run it all over them. They kept the offense really vanilla, didn't reveal a lot because they had big games against Penn State coming up in week 2. Those were decisive, but not particularly convincing. You didn't walk away from those thinking, wow, the Panthers are great. They just ran over and bullied a team. No, you kind of thought that was a little underwhelming for a game against an FCS opponent. There were also 2 more of these types of games that Pat Narduzzi's teams have played against FCS opponents. I think 2017 against Youngstown State or 2019 against Delaware. Those were one-score games, pretty concerningly tight wins. But, you think about that Delaware game. Kenny Pickett did not play. Nick Patty was making a spot start. And then in 2017, that was easily Pat Narduzzi's worst team of his tenure since he's been at Pitt. So we can throw those one out in a certain sense. I don't think that this 2023 team is really going to be as bad as either of those teams, particularly on offense. And unless Phil Jurkovec somehow, trips and suffers a horrific injury walking to class this week, I think he will be the starter for this game, so we don't have a Nick Patty spot start situation like we did in 2019. I'm of the thought that you get something, yet personally, that you get something closer to that 2021 New Hampshire game or that 2021 UMass game, rather than a game like that 2016 Villanova bout. And for 2 reasons in particular. Number one, I think they want to stay healthy, and number 2, I think they want to make a statement at the same time. That's a little tough to do sometimes, but I think the Panthers will be able to walk that balance because they're built a little different from those teams, and they're built to blow these guys out in a way that still kind of preserves their bodies. So let's start with that first one. I think that Pitt is really out to stay healthy. I think Phil Jurkovec is a big part of that. This is a guy with an injury history. He's played against some pretty rough offensive lines at Boston College, but I think this team will go as far as Phil Jurkovec goes, and to go far at all, he's got to stay healthy. And I think that not just Phil, but Rodney Hammond will have to stay healthy as well. I think there's a little bit of injury concern with Hammond as well, just given how many games he missed last year. So I don't think that running the ball is going to be a really big emphasis for this team, even against a smaller opponent. You think about the offensive line, too, that went through so many injuries last year as well. They are decidedly thinner entering this year, and then losing Ryan Jacoby made them even thinner than that. So I don't think that ground and pound and really grind this team down is really going to be their strategy in this one. the other thing is I think they're gonna try to make a statement, and I think they're gonna do that by throwing deep. I think we've heard all offseason and all during training camp just about how much this explosive offense is working and how much it's clicking between Phil and the receivers and the tight ends and how everyone is kind of on the same page and everyone in year 2 of this offense feels much more comfortable to take more risks. And I kinda take them at their word. I think they are gonna actually try and open it up, and I think they are gonna try to show a little bit of who they are going to be this year. And that's the thing. If these deep shots are going to be a big part of their offense, you can't just turn it on in week 2 or week 3 when you start to play Power 5 opponents. That's part of the preserving guys. You can't just, kind of expect to flip the switch when you face a team like West Virginia or Cincinnati. And then I also think that, you know, passing the ball preserves them maybe a little bit more than for those games against Power 5 opponents because the Panthers after this game, we'll play 11 straight Power 5 opponents, and, that's just walking into an early meat grinder. Conference play is always rough on everyone. That's across college football, and the Panthers are basically starting that 2 weeks early, as opposed to some of their other opponents, or 2 weeks early usually, 3 weeks early maybe, because most teams really only play, 9 or 10, uh, Power 5 opponents. The Panthers are playing 11 this year. So, you know, I think the Panthers will try to put this game out of reach quick, and I think that's one way they can do that is through the passing offense and through chucking it deep and through getting Dracovic to get them a comfortable enough lead so that they can bring in Christian Veer, someone that they are still very confident in, but someone that can also, keep his foot on the gas. I think Dracovic and Hammond are the ones you worry about, but, you're gonna have to throw at some point in this game, and I think the passing game is the best way for them to, get this game out of reach early and, take care of business and make it an early afternoon, and then get out of there really healthy as well. So, I don't expect them to be able to, first of all, run the ball as effectively as they did in the past, so that kind of eliminates a game like they had against Rhode Island last year, where they just leaned on Israel Abanikanda for big run after big run. I believe he had another, 150-yard, 3-touchdown day against Rhode Island last year. This will be a little different. I'd say it's more likely that, Bub Means or someone goes for 150 yards as opposed to one of the running backs. With that said, I would look at, every kinda passing yards or passing attempts prop that you can find for Dracovic, receiving yards for Mumpfield and Gavin Bartholomew and even Bub Means, like I said, and I would take those over any kind of rushing props that you might find. I also think it's possible that the Panthers get some help from their defense. I think that's almost certain, defense or special teams. You know, we've heard about MJ Devonshire getting his hands all over the ball, but AJ Woods and Marquez Williams have proven that they can house touchdowns as well or take interceptions deep into opponent territory. And then I think you've also got Devonshire and Bub Means in the return game. I think that's certainly a possibility that the Panthers break one, at least one, on either special teams or defense as well. And I think that's another way that they could possibly put this game out of reach real early. I'm expecting a pretty comfortable afternoon for the Panthers. I think they are, for the most part, past the days where they let FCS teams hang around, where they are hiding things for certain opponents. I don't think that this is a 2016 or a 2018 or even a 2017 or 19. Think about those years where they were playing an FCS opponent, then Penn State in week 2. I don't think they're going to try to hide anything for anyone. I think they're going to try to. I think they're not going to be afraid to show that they can throw the ball, and I think they're going to make the teams that they're playing in these next few weeks after Wofford really respect that. Not that they're looking ahead, but this is obviously a team that they should take care of pretty easily. So I think they will, in fact, yeah, I guess look ahead and think about setting up their plays and their offense for the next week. So that's how we'll close this video. Thank you so much for tuning into another Inside Pit Practice Report. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/at Inside the Panthers. And then follow all the reporting from the rest of the regular season and from from games and practices at InsideThePanthers.com. With that, thanks for tuning in again, and I'll see you next time.